Hello, everybody. Good evening and welcome to the Leadership Corner. Am I excited about today on? I'm excited about today on. It's going to be an amazing topic. And if you have a friend, share this link. Call people to join. This is a special edition because we want to take it a bit notch higher. And my desire is to see people live a life in abundance. My aspiration is to see people come up life, own life, know who they are, own life, enjoy life. Knowledge is power, and knowledge deployed is so potent. It's so powerful. When you see people who are calm, who are generous, who are spacious, who are empty, who are stable, mental stability, is because they have been able to find knowledge that they have acquired, and this knowledge is expanding themselves. Until you get to your expanded self, you can't do life well. So this topic is about assessing. Thank you again, Abi, for beautifully joining us. You've been such an amazing soul. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you do for us. You're just an amazing person. Thank you. Today I'm excited. I'm excited. I know I'm always excited about sharing knowledge, sharing insights, experiential knowledge that I have experimented and I'm deploying. But today it's something that anybody, if you acquire this knowledge, it's going to help you deal with, first of all, your life, and then you can deal with different life. When we talk about leadership, we always talk about leadership from the concept about leading people. Or, leading people. Yeah, we have said, okay, you first of all lead yourself, deploy yourself. Then if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead other people. If you lead yourself into a joyful life, then you can really lead other people into a joyful life. If you lead your life into a productive life, become so productive and engaging. All right, thank you so much for joining us. You can also lead your people. But today, we're going to talk about something quite different that will leading life. Leading life, leading circumstances, leading over sickness, leading over inferiority complex, leading over depression, leading over rent, leading over unemployment, leading over relational issues, leading over every form of life. How can we lead life? Oh my God, I love this. It's going to be quite interesting. How can you live life, leading life, where you live above anger, resentment, where you lead above rejection, where you lead above circumstances of life, that you are leading them, they are not leading you. Because every time you're upset, something you're upset is leading you, it has overtaken you. When you say, I'm discouraged, it means whatever that made you become discouraged is leading you. If you feel that you're angry always, it means that the thing that causes you to be angry is leading you. Unfortunately, we don't see it from that angle. If your work is stressing you, that means that work is leading you, overshadowing you, overwhelming you, is impacting on you. If your parents are agitating you because of their constant demand or expectations that are the place, or the society is putting pressure on you, they are leading you. If any way in your life that you feel that you're helpless, you're weak, you're powerless, it means that you have been overtaken. So what we want to do today is to be able to unturn these circumstances where life will lead life. I mean, like, so it's exciting. I'm excited around it. How can I live life? How can I lead not being feeling that I'm rejected? How can I live life not feel like I'm not accepted? How can I live life where I'm not inferior? How can I live life where, because I don't have a job now, and I'm not going to stress, I'm not going to be anxious around it, I'm not going to worry, I can't be in that level, in that class. So it means that how can I outclass life itself? Are you crazy, Patrick? How can you outclass life? Yes, that's where we're diving into this night. I'm excited about it. Just thinking about it. Somehow I have known things before, but when you get new insight, new revelation, the freedom, the clarity, mental clarity, the mental stability, because that's where we need to be, the mental equilibrium, the inner peace, the tranquility, the ease, the effortless with which you handle life. Your lenses are changed. I'm super excited. I don't know who you think are in a low place. Just send this link to them. Let them enjoy. Let's have a discussion. Let's have fun. Let's delight come. Let wonder come. I mean, let newness, new novelty in our mind, in our power. Let's empower our mind. What I'm talking about is, how can I lead life? Oh my God. I know people want to lead people, but I want to lead circumstances. I want to lead event of life. I want to lead obstacles. I want to lead uncertainty. I want to lead facts. I mean, I want to be able to have a report. My boss give me a report, and I'm not going to be overwhelmed by that, but I will lead that. I read something recently. I think it's Psalm either 48 or something, that he said he leads us forward. Oh my God. Whoo! He leads us forward. So I want us to be able to find what will make us lead forward. Before I start, let me give a preamble. So some years I have read a scripture, powerful scripture, that had told me, that said, if you then reason with Christ, set your affection above. Hey, I call it the above mentality. There's something about above mentality, because you see, every problem is in a low level, in a certain level. You cannot lead that circumstances within the same level. So what problem does is that it brings us into the same level. So when you don't have rent, you're agitated. When they reject you, you feel inferior. You cannot lead life in such level, because you see, lower level and higher level. And if you've been around my corner, one of the things I talked about is higher self and lower self. It's exciting. Like, I mean, it's exciting. Like, it's a tool that is a tool to live life. We want to live circumstances. We want to lead like ugly situations. We lead it. It will not lead us. It will not overwhelm us. We want to be able to look at, like, we have debts, that we're servicing debts, right? And because we're servicing debts, now the debt will not overwhelm us, overtaking us, but we will lead debt into that. You lead yourself from the place of servicing debt into, like you are free from debt. We want to be able to unlock and unpack regret, or like you unpack what's it called now? Like, there's something that had been like a surmountable, like, I mean, they lead you all. I want to be able to look any circumstances, and I will lead it like a dog. I'm training my dog to follow me. That's how we're going to train our circumstances. So if you follow me a bit, you know that I talk about higher life and lower life. Now, when you are in any situation, you agree with me that your spirit is low. Your emotion is down. You're upset. You're worried. That's a low level. And there's a cause. But you see, on that level, you can't command respect. You can't make impact, meaningful impact, because you are on the same level. And that's why you see, when you're agitated, your creativity is dampened. You need excitement. You need joy. You need liberty of the spirit to be able to invent and innovate and be able to create and be able to formulate into something bigger and higher so that you can lead your situation. So basically what happened is that you are either in a lower life or in a higher life. And now, so when I am on a higher life, I can make impact. I can make impact. So leadership is not just about influence, like my John Maxwell said, is the impact. I've always said that leadership is relationship, leadership is responsibility, and leadership is present, which will now make influence. But now we're moving dimensionally in a new dimension where leadership is impact. So now, for instance, if you're on a same level and you want to make impact, it will be difficult for you to make impact on the same level. You need to rise so that when you fall on something, it will make impact. That's why you say, arise and shine, for your glory has come. That means that you need to arise into a certain level. I read in the good book, he said, if you want to ascend, come hither that I might show you what is to come. So today it's like to show you what is to come. So this is how we live life. We live life in 3 segments of our life. We have what we call the spiritual self. Why is it important? Every leader knows that there's something higher than you. And so it means that you have to understand that there's a spirit self. And that's why you can wish. That's why you can desire. That's why you can be happy, because those things are naturally not something you can see. Now we have what they call the mind self. That's why Josh Meyer said the mind is the battleground. Now we have what we now call the material self, which is your ego self. That is your physical self. That's your body self. That's the matter self. In these 3 dimensions, they have significance. And that's where we are going today. Now what happened is that the mind is the center of, like a receptor that processes, that engineered, that cultivate, that modify and advances whatever input that you have received. So you have, either you're getting information from the spirit self, or you're getting information from your material self. This is where we are going about this. And it's important you understand this, so that you understand. So you see, when your spirit self impacts in your mind, it's going to impact from a place of power, from a place of superiority, from a place of infinite and oceanic point. It's not afraid. It's a place of abundance. It's a place of infinite roots. Is lacking nothing, really lacking nothing. I can tell you, it lacks nothing. Your spirit is so powerful, it connects to an infinite source. And I can explain it. Now, so when you live certain life that is powered by the spirit, your spirit, maybe joy, maybe something extraordinary, it has to come from your spirit self to feed your mind, to impact your mind. Because your mind is a faculty of invention, is a faculty of advancement, is a faculty of creativity. It creates, and it's a strong faculty. And now, what influences the mind is so important. Now, there's a material self. I'm going somewhere here. The material self is not abundantly constructed. It is, first of all, a worship scarcity. Because it worships scarcity, it is based on scarcity, and that's why it's based on limitation, and that's why it's based on measurement, it's based on figure, It's based on comparison. It's based on theories and concepts that is based on experience. Sometimes the matter self is, that's why I talked about identification. It's about clinging. It clings. And when you cling, when you're attached, when you identify, you have taken a form. And a form is heavy. And once that heaviness comes into your mind, and that's what gives you heavy hearts. Oh my God. This is massive. Let me take it down. So let's say, for instance, you get into a house and now your mother tell you your mates are all married. This is your mother. It's talking to your matter self because it's talking about, he's seeing you mate in terms of comparison, in terms of measurement, in terms of scarcity. And now you take that word into your mind faculty. You start seeing comparison. It puts heaviness around you. It doesn't liberate you it brings you where you are sad. Now you are not equal to the problem. You can't make impact. You are discouraged. You go on mourning. You start fighting. You're sad. You are ruined at that moment. You see, your material self has feeded your mind. And your mind has received it. And now it cannot energize it. It has de-energized it, de-empower it, and make you weak. And that's because you're feeding from the matter self. This is very important if you're understanding in leadership. I'm laying the path because we're going to talk about leadership from place of impact. So now, if you stayed on that word from your mom or from your dad, and you say, oh, my own, is it my own? You feel like you're dwelling on that word. How you want to leave the house, how they are putting pressure on you, because what that happened, that they have put pressure on you based on their expectation, based on their comparison, based on their own idea and theory about relationship or why you should be married. Or I'm just using that for instance. Now what happened? That put pressure on you and that reduces you because now that has had an impact on you. You will realize that you were sad, you're discouraged, you're resentful, you get into annoyance, you start talking, and probably cause your bestie, and the information that you are giving at that moment has been impacted from your natural self. That is your matter self. And that is how, move on. Let's say you have a news about sickness. Suddenly sickness hit you. Now, it is your matter self that is feeding your mind. And that is an impact. So what happened is that impact will drag you down into a lower self. So you cannot effectively command or lead yourself at that situation because it seems like you have been disenfranchised, disempowered, and been moved out of a certain high level now into a lower level. Because once you're sad, once you're discouraged, once you feel inferior and all that, they are impacting directly on your mind. And your mind that warehouses this information is completely in a lower self. And so that's why you need to be careful what is impacting your life. Now, let's say they tell you the same thing, and now you're a person who feeds from the spirit. Let's say, for instance, you have a word that I do not lack my mate. Maybe your spirit now feed you more into your mind, your spirit self impacting on you because it's superior. Like for instance, you just say, you know what? I respect you. I accept your opposition, but I'm not going to be trapped into this mode because that is a mode effect. Now you are above the mode. So your higher spirit will impact your mind and your thinking and your perspective cannot be affected by the lower self because of the information that has been transmitting from the lower self. So it's important to understand that you are functioning in tripartite state. your spirit self that impact on your mind, or your matter self. And everything that puts you in disadvantage, if you check it, they're external. Your external information, your external self, comparison, measurement, numbers, figures, they put you on that figure. But now, when you tap into a promise, for instance, you have made yourself a promise. Let's say the promise that you cannot be dismayed or discouraged. Let's say that that is your spirit self. And now, you are not too quick to react to external stimulus. You are not too quick to allow external things to impact your mind, to warehouse, to overtake your mind. Because once your mind is overtaken, you will realize that you are handicapped. And that's where you feel discouraged. That's where you're depressed. Every time you're depressed, you have allowed figure, comparison, numbers, externally to impact on your mind. And this impact will not be able to allow you to exercise an authority over the circumstance. So what happens is that once you are angry, once you are irritated, once you are in that state, negative state, what happens? You are on the same level. So you cannot make a meaningful impact in that situation. That's why you act out of emotion, you act out of impulse, you act out of irritation, you act out of resentment and all that. That's not real impact. Where we want to drag you is where you can be generous enough, be calm enough, be spacious enough to absorb, but yet not allow the absorption to ever. It's simply like when you bring a plate filled of oil, and now you bring it around the dishwasher, you realize the dishwasher has the capacity, space enough to trap all the oil without it affecting the sponge. So your mind is like a sponge. Where am I going here? I want to talk about a leadership model that I'm experimenting, that have done a whole lot around myself. I call it the model of leadership of impact. Leadership of impact. What it means, for instance, if I'm going to lead people effectively, I need to make an impact, not an impression. Yes, it's part of the impression layer, but my impression should be powerful enough to make a significant impact. If you don't make impact, you can't transform people. That's why you can impress them and they take the impression, but yet the same people cannot be impacted. If your leadership model begin to impact you and transform you from a certain level of lower level to a higher level, you begin to live an impactful life. Now, it's no longer whether you're going to command, whether you're going to model, you're going to do all kind of first things and all that. No, your life is impactful because your model has impacted on you, where you are not consumed by the external triggers, where you are not consumed by circumstances, when you're not intimidated like you are owing the bank, like I owe. You're not intimidated. You know that you're going to pay. Because one of the things that governs you is that, oh no, man, nothing but love. You know that you have the capacity. There's a confidence that you have built over a period of time that puts you in a higher place where you impact on your debt. Where people's voice can no longer have the permission to drown you into their mud, but you can respect it. You can accept them and say, you know what, I respect your voice, but I have denied them the capacity to overtake me. That is impactful life. It's an impactful life where your spouse is placing in an unusual demand and that used to disturb you, but you can respect your spouse and his opinion, not going to argument, not going to superiority or even logic around it. You accept the person and say, okay, I know we are in a different level and frequency, but you know what? I'm not going to allow this to overtake me. Yeah, I know I have friends who expect me to do XYZ. I will respect them. Really, I will respect them. But I will not allow them to overtake them. I will consistently position my mind and all my faculty where they are in a superior state so that I can make meaningful impact. And the more you start making impact to your spouse, to everybody, to your circumstances, what happens is that they would be transformed. Because now it's no longer force. There's an evidence. There's an evidence about it. If you are weak today, it's because your mind is tapping from a lower self. Because it's the lower self that weakens your mind, that deny you what it takes, the tool to impact. So what is this? I call it the above mentality. Oh my God. I call it the above mentality. It's coming from the place of as above, so below. Typical of one is say, as it is above, do as it's in heaven, so in earth. So we want to be able to drag you to the heavenly state. The heavenly state is timeless. It is not theory, a place of theory. It's not a place of weakness or helplessness. It's above, is above. So now it influences what is beneath. The pressure of above will, when it released, it will compact what is below. So we want to be able to take you, like, let's say your circumstances, you're looking for funding to start your business. Oh, so it's giving you sleepless nights, or you're looking for some things or something to happen, and now it's giving you stress. We want to be able to give you a faculty of above mentality that will impact. When I started practicing this, it's usually not a comfortable place to be. Because why? We have been ingrained, we have been tutored, we have been taught to fight. We have been taught to, all kinds of tools have been given to us. But I want to talk about the above mentality and the part to it. About 6 of them I'm going to talk about to help you. You cannot affect life meaningfully in a low level. Never. 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 You are trapped. So what's the first thing to do? I call it finding the path. What is the path? And funny enough, I got this concept from, theoretically from reading John chapter 14. Very powerful scriptures. When he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Oh my God. And so I was able to extract it, develop it in that context, and start bringing it to management terms. And I talked about the path. And I studied Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs understood this concept I'm teaching today. And this is why from some time he made so much impact in the IT world. And if you look at him, you'll recall that he was so impactful in his organization. And his impact still remains that all of us are buying into his ideology. So he's leading us in that technology. So when iPhone 14 comes in here, you are doing everything to get into that. That is a mentality of above. What it does, it drags you above because it creates a situation, a sensation where you are no longer. That's why you want to drop your iPhone 6. There's nothing wrong with that iPhone 6, really. It's functional. It is still functional, but it's not perfect. And so what happened is that because it's there, the solution is within it. Advancement is there because you see, we were created in this earth first and foremost to tender, to innovate, and to expand. So within you, if you are not expanding to a higher self, you will remain in the lower self. That's why true knowledge, you have to expand. They call it the expandable person. So what is the path? The path number 1 is to find out that there's what they call the divine intelligence. You cannot successfully make impact in this world without divine intelligence. Divine intelligence is so powerful that go and check science. Science is also recognizing there's a transient life. And that's why you see most of the scientists have a time where they stay alone. And it is that aloneness that they transcend. If you look at people who act, who draw art, they will tell you they want to go and stay alone. And it's in that alone, their mind are set up onto a higher ground, on a pedestal that is above over there. It is where they now get into ideas that have never been found. So you see, number one, you have to understand and talk about the divine intelligence, because it works in you. And now if you don't develop it, he said, what is he talking about? Go and check. You can't do anything meaningful, whether it's in the banking sector, whether in everything that you're looking for is in abstract. His ability to tap into the abstract and comes into that idea to affect your world, because everything is in above. If somebody is troubling you, don't get into argument. Be calm, cool, stable mind. Find that calm word. The scripture said, those that are sure of themselves do not speak all the time. Every time you speak, you lose value. Especially when you speak without purpose, without connecting to a certain energy. That's why words are powerful. So, it's first of all to understand, hey, there's a divine you, which is a divine intelligence. They call it a transient life. If you get into rent, don't look at the rent. You become equal to the rent. Look at the idea that create a solution that will now impact the rent. If you look at the rent, you are equal to the rent. Most of the time when we are in a constant battle with our bosses, no matter how toxic they are, what toxicity means is to drag you from a higher self into a material self that corrupts your mind and weakens you so that you can be in the best state, and that person will have overtaken you. I've really talked about this above mentality. It starts from divine intelligence. This is not scriptural, or I'm not preaching, but it is what it is. Divine intelligence. That's why you see most creative acts are done maybe in the toilet. I don't know where you get inspiration. Maybe when you are alone. Some people is when they are noisy. You now just say, because you see, lovers of God are filled with good ideas that is noble and pure. So what it does, that means that you cannot access solution from the material self. It got to be the higher self. No matter how you want to theorize it, that's why people perpetually stay in a lower state, because they don't ascend into divine intelligence. It's a path. You can't do nothing around it. So I wake up every morning, I tap into my divine essence. So early in the morning, I'm quiet around it. It's not about prayer. Prayer is part of it that can lead into you. But you have to start recognizing that there's a divine intelligence. And this divine intelligence will superintend your mind and give you power to make impact. Without this divine intelligence, it will be quite difficult. In the church secular, you'll hear that I will not leave you comfortless. I will send you a comforter who is like a standby. So I called me my standby. And so I consult my standby, and it impacts my mind. Oh my God, it frees me from the shackle of the material self. So when I am in any fixed, some kind of a fixed, and I get irritated or get sad, I get upset, That's why the Holy Bible will tell you, be anxious for nothing, but in prayer and in supplication, let your request be made known. That is a transient. Where I'm going is that there's a divine intelligence that you must become aware of and consult consistently. Let it be the higher self that influences and impacts in your heart. And when your mind is impacted from such a higher speed and higher intensity, trust me, it's very powerful for you to impact the lower self. It's called the divine intelligence. It's a divine intelligence. It's so powerful. It carries wisdom. In fact, it has capacity. The speed of this transient life is bigger than any network. It's faster than any network. But it is only accessed through silence, pause, quietness, trust, gratitude. That's what they call presence. It's so powerful in management. That's what you look at. The person that makes the largest noise in a meeting, they are not the most brilliant. In fact, I think when I was growing up in my career, I started hearing what they call high flyers. I was in a class of around the Shell people and all that. There were people they call high flyers. One of the things I found out about the high flyers, they don't make noise. In fact, most times they are the last to speak. Of course, I also heard about this thing that we talked about, Mandela. Mandela also had that. So I think Mandela said he was always that. The father asked him that he should be the last person to speak. What they do, they listen. They are quiet. They are calm. In that state of calmness, oh my God, that's where you transcend. And now you are not feeding from the material self. You are being fed from a higher mentality. Now, this higher self, like when these guys do, what do? They listen to everybody in the calmness of the mind. They are consulting this transient help. So they summarizes all the ideas and make a summary and make their submission. When they make their submission, you would think that they are coming from heaven. But why? They are not feed into, like you go to a meeting. People go to a meeting and fight. I don't fight in a meeting. I'm not going to fight in that meeting. I'm not going to fight with my idea. I'm not going to get into that fight. Oh, my voice must be heard. No, I may not speak. But any day I open up my mind, because it's from the transient life. That's what they call the path. I studied some of the richest people, in part. And when you look at them, there's something like, have you seen a professor whose children continue to do first class and you're wondering where it's coming from? There's a transient self that if you begin to cultivate it and it begin to impact your life, you're on an above mentality. And that above mentality is so strong that it's difficult for you to be impacted by your material self. What it creates, when I studied Steve Jobs and found out some of these fundamental things, that's why people don't access it. That's why majority of people cannot access it, because they are logical, they are broken in a broken places, they are in such a sad mood, they have swing mood and all that. They cannot be able to access the transient self. The second one is what they call the truth. Now, the transient self doesn't come from a place of scarcity. It's not pressurized. It is not pressurized. When I remember one time I was in church and they say, how badly do you want it? They don't work it bad, because how badly means that you are desperate. Because people function from place of desperation, from a place of scarcity, from a place of limitation, from the place of not enough. So that what impacts you. So you become so fearful. And once you become afraid, you're on a lower self, because in a higher self, there's a dimension of fearlessness. That's where courage, that's where mental fortitude, that's why you show your mental clarity brings you to such a place of balance. And it's in that balanced state that you innovate. So what is the truth? The truth is that there's a divine order. Listen, it's typically said, as many as led by the Spirit of God, they are called it. What is they leading? They are leading you like a script. Typically, like in movies, you see the playwright would have written it, and the director is directing the scene. So you now see that whatever that is going to be in that playwright has already been written by a man that is not part of that event. Now there's a director who directs the movie. So every character will have to listen, have to be led by that superior being. If you are not, they throw you out. Because it's a place of alignment. Oh my God, it's a place of harmony. It's a place of flow. That's what they call the flow state. Like a flow chart. So it's not a forced thing, because there's a divine order. Divine order means that there's a script that you are being. So the divine intelligence works in you, both to will and to do. But because we are not careful to flow with force, and force is an indication of desperation, lacking awareness. So it's called the awareness of divine order. And that's where you have come into truth. You must realize there's a divine order. And it is a divine order that gives instruction to the earthly arrangement. So flowing through the director who gives you order, if you take the instruction, you will realize that you are flowing and acting out of the script. And you will see that at the end, there's a perfection. It is not the audience that dictates it. They dictate to the audience. So every audience cannot put pressure to the director because they are in control of it. It's called the awareness of the divine order. You must be able to understand it. The above order has been constituted and established. So anytime that you are on a plane of any difficulty, subject it, understand that there is divine order, and the only way that material thing will be impacted is taking instruction from the divine order. Typically, when you get into an office and that people run policies. I worked in the bank before. And if you're going to be a successful banker, one of the things that you're going to do yourself is to pick up all the policies. And the people who wrote that policies are not within. You can't see them. So the document is like a divine intelligence working on you. So if you want to be successful in that place, if you want to have a very full career, you don't bring your own idea. Once you bring your own idea, you are out of the flow. So that's what they call divine order. If you start operating from divine intelligence and then into divine order, if you become aware of this, you will never take instruction beneath. So we have the path, we have the truth, which is awareness of the divine order. And the next one is that it has a certain word. It's called the word. So this is how we tie down. You cannot influence your problem with complaint and murmuring, or even hate, they don't make impact because they are in the same level. For you to make impact, which is a command system, oh my God. So there's a command structure that comes in from the divine intelligence that have done a constitution, which is the divine order. Now, the obedience, the alignment to it, the conformity to it, to adherence to it, will give you a certain word. And that's why you cannot win war of external war with the same external war word. The words are different. It's a command. It's a command structure. If the word does not represent the order, it cannot be effective. So you're careful, you're mindful to ensure that your wordings, the word, which what we call the associated phrase. There's an associated phrase. That's why you see, if you're a lawyer, there's an associated phrase. If you're a doctor, there's an associated phrase. If you're an engineer, there's an associated phrase. If you're an IT world, there's an associated phrase. And if you speak a language that do not have an impact from the divine order that has been directed by divine intelligence, it is difficult for it to have significant impact. You cannot naturally make impact effectively from the lower self. So there is the word. So they have the part, which is the divine relationship with divine intelligence, the transit word, which affects, which gives you truth. The truth is the divine order of things. Now that divine order will create an associated phrase, which we call the word, which is what they call the command. And it's the intensity and how powerful the words are that will impact the lower self. And that's what it lead. That's what now lead the situation. And this is so interesting. Now, the next one is what we call the nature. Now, there's a nature. What's the nature? This nature is what they call the life force. It is ability to be able to now embody the word. Like if you show up and people are still upsetting you, you have not connected to the phrase and connected to the divine order and the higher intelligence. So you become lower in your mind. And that's why depression comes in. So you now have to have the embodiment of the word. Embodiment of the word. What it means that, for instance, you get into office and people still are competing. You know that you can't compete. When you start competing, you are being fed by external people and they are weak. They weaken you. If you get into the place of gossip where they label your name and now if you have not embodied the phrase of the word, for instance, let's say on my own I have a phrase of say I dwell in goodness. Right? And now I have not embodied in my speech, and it doesn't reflect in how I respond to my emotion. It doesn't impact on my thinking patterns. It doesn't reflect everywhere how I condition myself. I cannot make a significant impact. Because making an impact is just being different. Not in the same frequency, not orbiting in the same vibration. The vibration has to change. The frequency has to change. And the energy, it carries different energy. So sadness cannot be associated with a higher life. Irritation cannot be associated with over there. Discouragement cannot be embodied. So that's what they call the nature. It's called the life force. Because in this life force, this is actually what makes contact and establishes that order. If you understand these concepts and start rolling in this, that's what they call above mentality. The nature is the same. The embodiment, the body language, what they call the body, because it's the life force that transmits. Because now this is where you're now making contact with your material self. But it doesn't have to now respond to the external thing. Because it doesn't take instruction from the external world. It takes instruction from the transient life. Because, hey, there's a divine intelligence that's empowered, which is the part that is enforcing you to be aware of the divine order. Of course, now it gives you what they call the associative phrase, which is the word, which is the command system. Now that function has not impacted on you that you are consistently. That's what I say, if you then reason with Christ, set your affection above. So your emotion cannot be triggered by elementary upset. Your emotion cannot be subjected to fluctuation, like today you are in this mood, tomorrow you're in a higher mood. No, it's constant because it is an embody that has been impacted. And so this body is ready to deal. It is different. It's on opposite arm. Now, what it does, eventually, how do I get it there? It's called the presence. This is where intentionality, when you talk about intentionality, people talk about intentionality from a point, oh, I'm intentional. No. If the intentionality is not, it's not connected to divine intelligence that is operating, recognizing the divine intelligence that is above, which controls your mind faculty, now have been able to give you the truth, which is the divine order, that gives you associated phrase, which is the word that influences your speaking, how you speak, because how you speak will make an impact. You cannot deal with stubborn spirit from fearful words, phrases. So the more you get to the truth, the more you get to the associated word, it begins to give you a nature. And that nature now cannot conform again to a lower standard. The standard is different. Typical of, say, when the enemy come like a flood, that the Spirit of God will raise a standard. Have you now seen what it is? The Spirit cannot just come and set a standard. No. Why? It has come down into now recognizing the Spirit, having a relationship with this divine Spirit, divine intelligence, recognizing is at work in you at any point in time. The same way that externally they are work in you, giving you wordings, giving you how to follow, pressurizing and impacting you. When you become neutral to the external world, you begin to now connect to the divine intelligence, which is the path, which is a relationship, which is a transient life. Of course, give you a truth. And that truth is you are aware of that divine order. So the presence, anywhere you are, that's why there is not reactive. It's the responsibility. It's more like occupied army who is saying, here we have taken over this territory. We cannot be influenced by opposition. We are one, bringing our presence. That's why you see, when you have a military presence in a state or in a locality, you see that the people seem that they are subdued. Because they are like a superior person. People, they have overtaken that place. So what we want to talk about is a domineering spirit that you are not taken by circumstances of the earthly realm, but you are such in a transient self that is taking spiritual order, divine order, that influences your associated words because it's empowering your words. You can't speak ordinarily. Then, of course, it gives you a presence once you show up because of this order of the path, of the truth, of the word, and the nature. You have a presence. And what does it do? Hey, this is the interesting part of it. You don't speak phrase that is not aligning. You don't act. It's called the alignment factor. It is the embodiment, it's the engagement, it's the expression. This is the final one. Alignment. Alignment is so powerful because, you see, constantly aware of the divine intelligence that has created a script in your mind faculty. What it does that is like it shields you, it guides you from external attack. Because once external attack, what it does is want to hit you to disconnect you from, you start questioning. That's why people say you start questioning yourself, your ability, your confidence is eroded. Your landlord can now overtake you. When you get into the house, you are so confused. Pain has overtaken you. Regret has overtaken you. Debt will take you completely. Because you know why? You are flowing. You are lining. You have changed the channel. It is not from above. It's not above mentality. It is so powerful that when you understand these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 concepts and live in the above, you cannot be led astray. You cannot be led into weakness or regret or the elementary point. Because what keeps us in that perpetual state is to remain in the lower self and not in the higher self, so that we'll not have impact. But I think from today, if you have taken note and you just go and study it and go through it again, start implementing them, your above mentality will create a leadership of impact. And once it has impacted on you, that's why you can't be a general until you have been impacted with a certain characteristics. When a general comes into a state, and you will know that he has a force. In fact, with his decoration, which is the embodiment, which has become a nature, it creates a presence. Everybody aligned. I don't know the state you are. I don't know where you are. If you get to this leadership model, leadership of impact, then you will ascend and live a fruitful life. Your performance will up. Your irritation will disappear, begin to disappear. Whatever make you uneasy, you begin to find the fire, the zeal to upsurge. It's called the leadership model of impact. Once it packed on you, you can impact on any circumstance. You're no longer driven by temporary thing. You are maintaining the idea of the transcendent divine intelligence that has created a divine order, which is the truth. And that truth will find you the word, what they call the phrase of the word. Once you start shaping you and start influencing you, because your word will determine whether you're in have a higher above mentality or you have lower mentality. You cannot be lower mentality and have a meaningful impact. So what this is to do is to create a model in your heart, in your mind. And once it is above, it can impact beneath. As above, so below. It's called leadership of impact. Thank you so much. It's been quite an amazing moment when I invite other people, ask questions. It is getting better on a daily basis. Invite people on this leadership thing, because what we want to do is to constantly lead ourselves forward, lead ourselves into betterment, and make sure that you are not under the command of any external trigger. Thank you so much. Stay well. Have a great week, and make sure that you are impacting yourself and impacting your world. God bless you. Let me see your hand if you've been here. If you have met something, let me hear comments. Give me a hi. Just do something to show that you've been here. Please let me get a remark on it. If you have confusion, drop a comment. I'm sure next moment is going to be more impactful We're going to be more interactive. If you have anything that of a concern, please let me know. Thank you so much. Thank you. It was good having every one of you here. Just show a sign that you are here tonight. Let me see you somehow. Drop a note, drop a comment, send something. Thank you so much. Format, it's been quite interesting having you. Arise 160. Thank you so much. Abigail, thank you so much. Brown Sugar, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. I can see Choma. Thank you so much. Great to have you people here. Do impact with yourself. We're going to have this above mentality, and we're going to be leading ourselves and leading the world and leading Africa. See you next time.